Welcome back. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal assured that the new India-US trade deal would not hurt Indian farmers, dairy producers or rural jobs. He said that the government has secured a tariff structure that protects the country's most sensitive food sectors while unlocking wider export opportunities for Indian manufacturers, tech producers and labor-intensive industries. India has secured a major trade advantage over its competitors, with Union Minister Piyush Goyal asserting that the trade deal with the US protected Indian farmers and MSMEs, while at the same time it opened the US market to several agricultural products. In essence, India flipped the script. While the US sought wider access to India's dairy and agricultural markets, New Delhi has managed to achieve zero reciprocal tariffs on several of its agricultural products like tea, coffee, banana, mango and more. So this is what the Union Minister has in fact stated, that we have been able to protect our most sensitive sectors, and we have gotten the US to agree to almost 0% tariffs on certain products like tea, coffee, we have banana, mango and other such products. So this is something that Indian industry will be looking forward to. There were obviously a lot of concerns regarding how this will affect the agricultural sector in India. This is something that the opposition has raised concerns about, but the Union Minister has in fact clarified that this deal will not hurt the Indian farmers or the dairy producers or rural jobs. In fact, the Commerce Minister has stated that this will open up opportunities for Indians. He also said that the government has secured a tariff structure that actually protects the country's most sensitive food sectors, and this will in fact lead to most exports. In fact, joining us on the broadcast to discuss this further is former Finance Minister P Chidambaram. Thank you so much, sir, for joining NewsX and speaking to us. If I can get your first sir, takeaway now that we have a joint statement, we have a framework. What are your biggest takeaways from this agreement, sir?
The biggest takeaway is it is not an agreement. It is not even an interim agreement. It is a framework for an interim agreement. So that a situation does not call for celebration. It calls for deeper analysis of the contents of the statement. I have read only the version issued by the White House, and it is so opaque, so ununderstandable. It refers to various orders, proclamations, etc. And unless you read them along with the joint statement, you can't make out what the joint statement intends to achieve. But one thing is clear, that India will have to reduce its tariffs to zero pretty quickly, whereas America will continue to impose 18% tariff, and they will, subject to the framework leading to an interim agreement, they will reduce the tariffs. And this is also subject to what they call a Section 232 investigation. But I don't know what the Section 232 investigation is. Nobody has told the people of India, certainly not the government of India. No government spokesman has explained to us what each of these orders and proclamations referred to in the joint statement mean. And nobody has told us about a Section 232 investigation.
Right, but sir, in fact, we had the Union Minister earlier today as well, Piyush Goyal. He is saying that products like chai, coffee, agricultural products, nuts, fruits, gems, smartphones will in fact have 0% tariffs in the US. Would you say that there are some positives in this framework, interim framework that we are talking about? Because he is saying our most sensitive sectors have been protected, sir.
We export little tea. Most of the tea produced in this country is consumed in India. We export a significant amount of coffee, but nuts and spices and chai and coffee, how many $1 billion do we export? I think they should give us the export figures of these commodities in 24, 25 and 25, 26. Our major exports are textiles, leather and leather goods, seafood. Those are our major exports. And the 18% tariff will continue to remain on those goods.
Right. And so do you believe that, at a time when Trump is, sanctioning a lot of countries, putting in tariffs, do you believe that at least 18% we have gotten it reduced to 18%, the tariff rates? And if, sir, if you could have pushed for some changes in this deal, what would you have suggested? And do you see a scope for that happening as we negotiate towards a final trade deal, sir?
I can't suggest anything. I'm not part of the negotiations.
But if you have liked some changes.
Told you, just a moment. Don't interrupt, please.
Yes, sorry, sir.
I didn't interrupt you. Has the government told you that prior to April 2, 2025, the average tariff on Indian goods exported to America was about 2.5% or 3%. It jumped to 25% and it jumped to 50%. Now they've reduced it to 18%. But 18% is 8 times the pre-April tariff. How is that a concession that America has made to India?
Sir, the PM says that the deals with the US and India, EU are being seen as good for a larger, stable world. What's your response to that?
We are not discussing the EU deal. I have to study the EU deal. Don't mix up the EU deal and the American deal. We are discussing only the American deal. And the American deal is a framework for an interim agreement which will possibly lead to a final agreement. It's not a BTA. Whoever calls it a bilateral trade agreement is misleading the people of India. It's not telling the truth. It's a framework for an interim agreement which will be arrived at later this year and which may or may not lead to a BTA. Where did the words or letters BTA come into this deal? And then secondly, this is all subject to orders dated 2/4/25, 5/9/25, 8/3/2018, 37/25 and 17/5/2019. Now who's explain to the people of India what these orders and proclamation contain? So you should do your homework. I mean, you have access to these orders and proclamations. Please read them. I don't have access to them. They are not on the Government of India website.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast with your valuable perspective on this issue. With that,